Hi, welcome to the Pursuit of Truth. So I'm rendering one now, I think it's 812, so this will be 813, and I'm sure that 814 I'm already started on. But I want to talk about the bit I missed in the 812, which was that first speech by, was it Richard, was it Frampton? Or no, now I'm mixing that up with the singer, um, where he was talking about, rhetoric versus action and, the legality or illegality of Israel attacking Iran. And when I was listening to that, it gave me the idea for the poem Warlord, which is I've already put on, which is like this conversation between two warlords who can't remember the time when before, because it made me think about when he was talking about that, like how did Iran and Israel get to this stage where they're in a war with each other, and now America's joined in, and that aspect of the past. What was the moment when that enmity came about? So that's what the poem sort of explores, that idea. They can't even remember, and because it's not the supreme leader or Benjamin Netanyahu. It probably goes generations back. I don't know, like, because when I was going to the Promised Land once, seeing that the history of Abraham and the people that are around in that area, they're probably all related through, assuming Abraham existed and all that kind of stuff, that through his sons, and they're, interwoven, and yet they became separate entities, like we all did. I mean, I suppose if we all came from Africa or Mesopotamia, whichever is true, where if humanity was originally one group and we all split out, and that's why we should all be looking at ourselves as human beings. But so at one time they were shared everything and together, and then something happened, some feud, probably a border of bit of land, and then I wanted this bit and you wanted this bit. No, God promised me this bit, not you, and so we're going to fight over that. Sorry, the camera's going to blow over in the wind. And so that was what the poem was about. The warlord can't remember the time before and how they spoilt it all, because they had everything, and yet they spent all their time just getting the people below them, which is like the soldiers, the normal civilians, to fight for them. And then at the end it talks about the cloud going to the ground, which of course is the nuclear bomb, and the mushroom cloud, and it is dropping on their land at the same time, so they're both being obliterated, understanding that, and then feeling sorry for the people that foolishly, us, all the rest of us that follow all the world leaders, followed on with their footsteps and defended them and did nothing, or was silent. So that was what it was about. And I was just listening now to, I think it's going to be on the next one, to an Israeli talking about, I think it was Matthew, was it Barrett on Sky News, asking about Israel, if they're going to join the IEA, which Iran was already part of, to do with nuclear, I assume they're an international watchdog who check nuclear things to make sure that it's been done properly. So Iran, ironically, who are meant to be really the bad ones in this story, already are signed up to that, and that organisation said they didn't have, well, some seem to say it differently. I haven't actually read myself, but it looked like they did have, obviously, nuclear weapons, but how much they'd enriched it, I don't really know, because it seems to differ depending on which side talks about it. And yet Israel, who claim they don't have any nuclear weapons, they were asked, are you now going to sign up to the IEA? Because if you're meant to be the responsible one and the good guy, like I assume the UK and America are all signed up to the IEA watchdog. I don't know about Russia and India and Pakistan. Does China have nuclear weapons? Are they all signed up to it as well? But Israel always say they're never going to say whether they have them or not, but some claim, I don't know who this is, I assume it's a whistleblower, says they have 90 warheads. So if they're the ones that have all this stuff, why aren't they signed up to it when they're trying to, enforce it upon everyone else. They can't have them because they would be dangerous, but you're allowed to have them, but you're not even going to sign up to the international body to make sure that everything's done properly. And considering that that Israel has, the more firepower. Look how Israel took over the airs, has all these American jets, all these bombs and stuff, and is being able to, attack Iran with very little comeback, and yet they're the ones who have the weapons, and they talk of, like Israel. Like I think it was the guy on the Promised Land talking about Israel don't ever start anything, although this was, according to in their own words, a preemptive strike against Iran, and therefore, and look what's happening in Gaza, which some people are using certain words about, and yet they're trusted with a nuclear bomb because they're friends with America. It'd be interesting if they weren't friends with America, how it would be. But it just seems like it's the same, and it's not just them, it's the same with, like I said in the last pursuit, with all these world leaders. The hypocrisy, like I was talking about Iran as well, where they stand up there talking about, America and Israel going against the UN Charter and international law by doing this aggressive action, which may be they have, I don't know, because I haven't seen the evidence, we don't get shown the evidence, whether they have met those three requirements, if that's the case. But we do realise that obviously the West and those with power seem to be very fragrant, and it seems like now, especially this last 5 years, international law's gone out the window. We might as well get rid of the UN and all these charters because no one's following them anymore. We're seeing things going on all the time because now we have cameras and TVs and journalists everywhere where they're allowed in. We're seeing all this stuff, and yet nothing's changing. If it is ethnic cleansing or genocide that's going on in front of all of our eyes in Gaza, no one's stopping it. No one's doing anything about it. People paint some, paint on an airplane, and they're considered terrorists. But we're not actually doing anything other than, that's a very bad thing you're doing. Stop it now. I'm going to write a letter about that. Or I'm going to do a speech at the UN about that. It's just ludicrous, really. But, and then you've got Donald Trump with his, I don't know who writes his speeches. I really don't. And maybe he writes his own, I don't know how. And his concept of peace being like, you either accept peace or I'm going to blow up a bit more with my superiority. Who's sounding like the bully out of that? I don't know. I mean, maybe it's been done for the best interest, but it doesn't feel like that. It just seems like big boys with all the power, telling others what they can and can't have. I can have it. I can be trusted, but you can't be trusted, so you can't have it. And all that kind of stuff. And then, I don't know. But then, I know that, you can pick at each one of them and see the bad things they've done, whether it's, Iran funding terrorist organisations with Hamas and Hezbollah, and then having the gall to stand up saying, why aren't you following an international law? Well, it looks like no one's actually following an international law. And America giving 2 weeks and saying they don't want to get involved in the Middle East, not following their own international, what's it called, like research. Whether Iran did actually have this capability or not, or how close they really were, whether it was an imminent threat or it was a few years down the line, or whether they were just doing it to create a deterrent like every country with nuclear weapons. Because most of them say, no, we don't make nuclear weapons because we want to use them, because they'd be devastating. We do it as a deterrent to stop the other side. And the problem is, once one of them, like America, Russia, once one of them got it, then the other side has to have it, and then they just have to keep matching it. And it's just like everything about our system and humanity is such a waste of time, and it's distracting us from, like I said in the last one, of actually doing the things for humanity and using the resources that we've got and the time we've got to benefit everyone. But anyway, I just wanted to talk about the Warlord, and I've gone on a bit about the other things and etc. And it's just the same thing, isn't it? These people that are in charge they do whatever they want. They can always come up with an argument to say, you know, and this, I know I'm right on this one, or the other side will say, no, I'm right. Who's right then? And then, depending where you're born, your place in time, then you'll agree to that. And at the end of it, what does it really matter? Because at the end of it, what's happening is people are dying. People in that military base under the ground will be dead now under all that rubble. That's the end of their existence. They may not have even believed in that. Well, I suppose they must have done to be making. Or maybe they were making peaceful nuclear weapons. Who knows? For just normal energy, like some countries do. It's just a shame that this is our existence. That we have this system that pits each other against each other, and we have a way where we can get so lost because of our time and place, like I mentioned before. In, you know, wherever that baby is born will determine their mindset. And you could have like you can have twins, and you could put one of them in, say, the West, one in the East, or wherever, one in America, one in Russia, one in, you know, Iran, one in Israel, and yet if they were born together they would love each other. And once they're separated, then they grow up through the different systems, and then the enmity comes. A bit like the Warlords poem. Maybe that's where it comes from. But isn't that so silly, though? I mean, the ludicrousy of our system and of humanity and the way we're living our existence. And what we're doing is we're forgetting about that and just justifying all our ways. All those world leaders are, and then we do it. We puppet them, whereas they're all just as bad as each other, and they're all doing things that are not either side for the benefit of humanity. In like the actual case, I mean, in the system that we're living in, yeah, I see why they would, America would think that, yeah, this is a good idea. If they don't trust Iran, you know, it's easy for me to say, like, oh, imagine if they didn't do it. And imagine the scenario where Iran, you know, did build a nuclear bomb and then did actually use it. And these are all hypothetical. And then they did use it, and then loads of people are killed. And the fallout from that, literally and figuratively, that's the big danger, I guess. And so you could see that there would be an argument for, well, that's why I did it. You may think that that's a good thing. It's a shame, though, we're in that. This is our system, that it makes that possible. That would seem like a good decision. It's a shame that we can't all agree that, well, let's just stop making these bloody nuclear weapons that don't, you know, serve us. Why can't we all just live with each other rather than fight over who controls you and power and land and all this stupid stuff that we've inherited? Take care, take it easy, God bless and peace.